Hey everyone, welcome to Slater's Wrist Game. Today we are going to do a comparison video. Last time I compared the Tag Heuer Formula 1 with the Tudor 1926. This time I'll be doing the Hamilton Khaki Field versus the Alpina Startimer. One is a field watch and one is a pilot's watch. But since they were similar in size, and they were both Swiss made, I wanted to go ahead and compare the two. I do like them both, and I'm purchasing both this year. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over the specs. But before I get started, I'd like to say thanks for supporting the channel. Please continue to like and subscribe to videos, comment, and hit the notification bell. Okay. But first, let's just go over the specs for the Hamilton. So the Hamilton, I picked up this watch in January of this year. Love this watch. So this is Hamilton is owned by the Swatch Group. This is model number H70555533. And the MSRP on this one is $575. The bracelet version is $625. This watch here, the case diameter is 42 millimeters, which is my preferred size, 41 or 42. I love those sizes. The lug to lug on this one is 52 millimeters, so you can see here, and it has a thickness of 10.5. So this is these are good specs. I think the lug to lug of 52 might be a little much for most people, but I think that's okay for me. And the lug width is 22 millimeters at the top, and it actually tapers to about 19.5 at the clasp. So one thing I've learned over the years, watches that have bracelets or straps that taper are a lot more comfortable. This watch is 100 meters water resistance, and it weighs 78 grams. And it has a modified ETA movement in here called the H10 movement. So those are the specs, and here's another closer look at the Hamilton. This watch here was like love at first sight for me. And the first time I saw the watch, I just knew I wanted to have it one day, and I was able to pick it up this year. So happy for that. Now let's look at the Alpina Startimer. This is another watch I picked up a few months ago. I like this watch too. This one here, Alpina, is owned by the Citizen Group. Right now, I think Citizen might have bought them out of 2016, I think. And this is model number AL525NN4S4. This is the Startimer. This is a pilot's watch. MSRP is $13.95 for this one. A lot of times you can get this watch for like 60% off, 50 or 60% off new off the gray market. Even more pre-owned. This watch here has the movement, the AL525 movement, which is a modified Salida. We'll talk more about that later on in the video. But it has a 44 millimeter case, which is still a good case size. I like 44. And it has a lug to lug of 53 millimeters. And it is a thickness of 10.7. So very similar in specs. Just a little bit bigger as far as the lug to lug than the Hamilton, but very similar. But 10.7 millimeters, that's great. The lug width is 22 millimeters as well, but this one tapers down to about 17 millimeters at the clasp. So you can really see the taper here on this one. But it's actually a very comfortable watch, okay? This one also has 100 meters water resistance on this one as well. So yeah, this is similar, okay? But I do like this watch, and it's very comfortable. But just like I said about the Hamilton, I knew I wanted it like 3 or 4 years ago. I really hadn't heard much about Alpina. And when I did the research on it, after seeing it on sale, I went ahead and picked it up. And this is a very underrated watch, the Alpina. So today we're going to look at different categories of when we do this comparison. The first one is going to be the movement. Second, legibility. Third, finish. Fourth is the crystal. 5, tactile element. 6 is versatility. 7, packaging. 8, prestige. 9 is comfort. 10 is the dial. And if we have a tie, the tiebreaker, I guess, would be the price. I guess that's what you would do if you were actually deciding to purchase this one anyway, properly. So let's talk about the movement. So first of all, for the Hamilton, you have the H10 movement, which is a modified version of the ETA 2824. Now typically the ETA 2824 has like a 38 or 40 hour power reserve, and it's at 4 hertz. What they've done, they've slowed it down from 4 hertz to 3 hertz and giving you an 80-hour power reserve. I prefer to look at the sweeping second hand of a 4 hertz movement, but the 80-hour power reserve is very convenient and I like it. And the bottom line is, when you start to buy watches with 60, 70, or 80-hour power reserves, a lot of, especially from Switzerland, you're spending thousands of dollars. So you get that here for hundreds instead of thousands of dollars. So the movement here, I do like it on this one. And when you look at the movement for this watch here, the Alpina Startimer, it is the AL525 movement, which is a modified Solita. But it still has the standard specs. It's 26 joules, 4 hertz, 38 hours power reserve. When you have a lot of watches, the 38-hour power reserve is not a big deal because you probably won't be wearing it the next day. You're probably wearing something else. Even if it's your only watch, it's not a bad. It's just that when you lay this watch down over the weekend, you pick it up on Monday, you're gonna have to restart it again. But that's okay. So there's nothing wrong with this. You basically got a Solita, and Solita is gaining in popularity. I'm starting to notice a lot of watches are starting to carry Solita. So as far as the watch movement on both of these, I'm going to get an edge to the Hamilton because of the 80-hour power reserve, and ETA is a little bit more well-known and probably more desired on this one. So as far as the movement with in-house Patek being like a 10, and I would give this one probably an 8 and give this one a 7 for the Alpina as far as the movement. Now, in terms of legibility, when you put these both side by side, they both pretty legible. Here, first of all, looking at the Hamilton, is black with the white Arabic numerals, with the white second hand, and the white hour hand and the minute hand, and the red tip on the second hand. And it has a little bit more on a dial. When you look at the Alpina Startimer, it is still a dark color with the white Arabic numerals. Then you got the vertical and the horizontal dashes also, but it's just not as much on the dial, not as much on there as far as like there's no 24-hour track on the dial. It's like there is with this one. Like you got the 13 through the 24. You don't have that here, so it probably makes it a little bit more legible. So as far as legibility, I think they're both very legible. This is going to be a tough one. I'm going to give the edge and legibility to the Alpina. Give it an 8. Give the Hamilton a 7 on that one. As far as finishing, when you look at the Hamilton finishing, you see a high polished bezel, and you see the rest of it is brushed. And you can see the brushing on here is pretty good. We'll take a look at the case back for a minute. Now here's the case back. So the finishing on here is pretty good. You got this rotor here that says Hamilton. You got your typical information, but I've seen it far worse than this. I think this is pretty good finishing. But it's a combination of you got a high polished bezel. I think the rest of the watch is pretty much brushed. I think it looks good. When you look at the Startimer, it is kind of like a brush finish here. The bezel, I would call it is polished. It is a polished bezel. And it's basically similar. And then you have the case back here. Let's take a look at the case back. I do love the case back on this one. So as far as finishing, I'm going to call it even on this. On the finishing, I'm going to just say 7 for both. Now the crystal for the Hamilton here, it is a sapphire crystal, but it is very reflective. There's not a lot of anti-reflective coating on this crystal. Okay, it's basically like looking in a mirror on this one. But it is sapphire crystal. This one here is likewise a sapphire crystal, but it is not as reflective, but it is some anti-reflective coating, but it's still not as much. So I'm going to give the edge on the crystals. They're both sapphire crystals. I go 8 and 7. I'm going to get a crystal edge to the Alpina. Now, as far as the tactile elements for the Alpina, what I mean by that is the bezel, the clasp and the crown. This is a fixed bezel, and is, like I said, it is got a little polish on it. The crown is a screw down crown. You got what they call a cupcake crown, and it is a screw down crown. And you know, the clasp is pretty well done. It's signed with the Alpina on the clasp. Look like it's finished pretty well. Look at the Hamilton, also a fixed bezel, but the polishing is very good on the Hamilton. This is not a screw down crown. It is a push pull crown. And the clasp is also signed with Hamilton here. But I'm going to get an edge as far as tactile elements to Alpina here because it has a screw down crown and the Hamilton doesn't. As far as versatility, both of these watches here are 100 meters water resistant. Both of these watches on these leather straps. You can wear these watches. I think the Hamilton, you can wear it as an everyday watch, maybe even wear it for a dressy occasion. And it is a field watch. This here, the Startimer, is a pilot's watch. It is on a black leather strap, so you could probably also wear it as for a dress occasion because it is have that rose gold finish. So versatility, I say they're both equally versatile on this one. Now, in terms of packaging, let's just take a look at the packaging for a second. I'll just move these watches to the side and the paper to the side. So for the Hamilton packaging, you got this outer sleeve. And once you remove the outer sleeve, you see this Hamilton packaging like what you get from Swiss watches. It has a nice, pretty this brown box, wooden box. And you see here's the box here. But yeah, if you open it, but the wood look is very unique. I like it. And when you open it up, you got this gray interior. And you got this pillow here that fits pretty snugly in the case. So I do like the packaging of the Hamilton. I was very impressed with the packaging on the Hamilton, okay? So I put this packaging back up. I think for like $400 or $500, I think this packaging is actually pretty good. Now let's look at the packaging for the Alpina. You see it has Alpina Geneve right here at the top. And you see some kind of foam that's protecting it. And this also has like a wood look to it. And you see it also has a compartment here. Let me move this stuff out the way. Where you got like your instruction booklet. So packaging is very important. That's the first, before you even see the watch itself, you notice the packaging. All right. And when you just look at the box itself here, this is a great box. I don't know if it's real wood. And look at this here. We got the metal hinges and you got Alpina here. This probably is my best packaging for me. And like I said, I really like this one. So as far as the packaging, especially because of the interior, we're going to get an edge to the Alpina on this one. But the Hamilton is actually good. If I can get this back on, bear with me. Okay. So packaging, I'm gonna go Alpina. Now as far as prestige, you got two watches here. And like I said at the outset, I got my Alpina right here to the left, Hamilton to the right. Both of the watches companies have been around a long time. So Hamilton was founded in 1892, and according to their website, it was 2003 when they moved to Bill, Switzerland. As far as Hamilton made the first digital watch, and they started out making pocket watches. Alpina has been around since 1883. They were bought by Frederic Constant in 2002, and in 2016 by Switzerland. By the Citizen Group. But they're made in Switzerland. I don't know a lot about Alpina. And I think I'm not the only one that doesn't know a lot about Alpina. So as far as prestige, this is going to be kind of like where there's some separation here. It's definitely going to Hamilton. A lot of people know in brand recognition. I would give Hamilton maybe a 9, and I would give Alpina maybe a 6. I mean, many watch videos, if I've watched over the years, I just didn't know much about Alpina or Alpina, but I knew a lot about Hamilton. As far as comfort, both of these watches are very comfortable. You got a 42 millimeter case versus a 44 millimeter case for the Alpina. You have a 52 millimeter lug-to-lug versus a 53 here for the Alpina. And they both have a 22 millimeter lug width that taper. The Hamilton tapers to like a 19.5, where the Alpina tapers down to about a 17. You can kind of see the difference looking at these side by side and looking at how it tapers. They are both very comfortable. I would give the edge and comfort for me to the Hamilton, but they'll just do a wrist watch. Let me just put it on the wrist so you can kind of see what it looks like on my wrist. So here is the Alpina on my wrist. It is a 44 millimeter case with a 53 millimeter lug-to-lug. The lug at 53 is going to be just too much for a lot of folks. Okay, now we'll just try on the Hamilton. Just bear with me for a minute. We'll put this on so you can kind of see it on my wrist. So the Hamilton has a 42 millimeter case, 52 millimeter lugs to lug, but that 1 millimeter does make a difference. And you can see it here. And my wrist is 7 3/4 or 20 centimeters. Okay, so let me just take that off. And put back on my Casio GM 2100. But yeah, so the comfort, I'm going to give it to the Hamilton because the 53 is just a little long. It's okay for me, but the Hamilton does seem to be more comfortable. It just sits on my wrist better. So comfort, I give it to Hamilton a 9. I give a 7 to the Alpina, okay? And the last is the dial. Now, I've switched these around. So basically the Hamilton, the Alpina has you got the Hamilton and the Alpina, but the Alpina first, the dial is very nice, very legible. Not a lot on the dial. You got the Alpina at the 6 o'clock with 1883 Geneve. You got automatic 100 millimeters at the 6 o'clock and a date window at the 3 o'clock. Not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a good looking dial. It's one of the reasons I bought it. It's a great looking dial. The Hamilton, also a good looking dial. You have the date window at the 3 o'clock, Hamilton at the 12 o'clock. You got the Khaki automatic at the 6 o'clock. But you got those concentric circles. So I think with this dial here, and you got the inner track with, for like the military time. But I think this dial, it's a little bit better, a little bit more work went into this dial. So I'm going to give the dial to the Hamilton, I just say 8 and a 7 here. So at this point, we've kind of taken a good look at both watches. Now just tally up the scores and see what we have here. So just bear with me for a minute. I got a 74 for the Alpina, and for the Hamilton, $77. So I got it 77, 74, Alpina. I'm sorry, Hamilton. So I got the Hamilton edging out the Alpina, 77 to 74. These watches have two different MSRPs, but basically you're going to spend about $500 for both, at $400 to $500 for both of these watches, whether you get them pre-owned or from the gray market, because the Alpina loses a lot of value. But I think that the biggest difference was the prestige and the comfort on both of these watches. Other than that, I think it was pretty close, but the Alpina is definitely very underrated, and I think it's a great watch. So that concludes this video. Thanks for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm pretty anxious to see what do you guys think about the Hamilton versus the Hamilton Khaki Field versus the Alpina Startimer. So thanks for your time as far as watching this video, and I'm looking forward to bringing you another video soon. Thanks, and enjoy your day.